Hey, welcome to So Awkward. It's Don here with another episode of Don Reads Comics. I'm Don, and I read comics. I got a bunch of stuff at the comic shop this week, but I only actually got one new comic, and that is Thanos Annual by Jim Starlin and Ron Lim. Now, if you're a middle-aged, long-time comic book fan like me, that's all you need to hear. Jim Starlin and Ron Lim did another Thanos comic. Awesome. I was shocked when I heard about this because I don't know if Marvel uses Thanos anymore, and shocked because Jim Starlin is still writing another comic. Marvel has like 5 people that write everything. And it's just exciting to see Jim Starlin again, especially teamed up with Ron Lim. Together, both of them have made some amazing, brilliant, iconic, cosmic Marvel stories. Most of them about Thanos. So this was pretty sweet and pretty exciting to see. And it didn't disappoint, in my opinion. I don't know if it's a great jumping on point for people who have never read a Thanos comic, especially one by Jim Starlin, since it's kind of a flashback story that ties into the old Infinity Crusade, Infinity Gauntlet stories. It's I don't want to give too much away about the story. It's not necessarily time travel, but Thanos has an avatar that goes back in time and talks to a younger version of Thanos, and they kind of just have this conversation about their place in the universe and their fate. And it sounds weird, and it is weird, and it's really metaphysical and strange. It's classic Jim Starlin cosmic storytelling. And there's an ad at the end that says, "The mystery and wonder continues in Thanos, the Infinity Revelation, on sale this August." So obviously this is some kind of tie-in to something that's coming later, but I think it's also maybe a tie-in because I hear Thanos is in the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy film. And I guess he had a cameo at the end of the Avengers film, and he's either in the next Avengers movie or the third Avengers movie, I'm not sure. So they're probably trying to popularize Thanos again as a major threat. And they definitely got the right creative team to help reintroduce him to the world. I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of Jim Starlin, if you're a fan of Thanos, if you're a fan of old school Marvel stories, this is a must read in my opinion. I say check it out. I also went through my local comic shop's bargain bin, their 50-cent bin. So I got the first 12 or so issues of the original Marvel Comics Star Wars series. So these were all 50 cents. So I paid about $6 for some really old school classic Marvel Star Wars comics. I'd never read these before. I'd heard about them. And they're really weird. They're fun. They're strange. The first 7, I think, 6 or 7 issues are an adaptation of the first Star Wars movie. And they came out in 1977, either right before or alongside or soon after the film. I'm not entirely sure. But there is some behind the scenes info in the letter pages that's also pretty interesting to read, where writer Roy Thomas and artist Howard Chaykin wrote and drew their adaptation from the original script, and all they saw were some scant production photos. So there's actually some really interesting stuff in the stories. There's a lot of stuff that was edited out from the main, or even was just never filmed. Some of it was put back into the Star Wars special editions. Like we see Jabba the Hutt, the sequence where Han Solo meets Jabba the Hutt in Hangar 94 or Docking Bay 94 or wherever it is, I don't really remember. And or we see Big Starklighter, which was also cut from the film, but it's also in the special edition. The Jabba the Hutt scene is especially strange just because of the way Jabba looks. Obviously, Jabba was cut out of the film, so they never really finished his scenes or the special effects or whatever they're going to do. So I don't know if the drawing that they used was based on original production designs or if this was all Howard Chaykin and Marvel. But it's really strange. I mean, it's kind of a cool design, and I can see where they were going for. It's kind of a regal, almost bureaucratic look, whereas in the movies they went with a giant big fat slug. But after issue 7, it's all original stories, and that's where it gets a lot more fun, but also a lot weirder, especially considering the fact that these came out right after the first movie, years before they made any sequels. So they're just so weird and so wacky and so campy, which is kind of in line with the first Star Wars movie, which is wacky and kind of corny, intentionally so. It's based on like old movie serials. So these are they're just so weird. The first storyline in the first 2 or 3 issues after the film is over is about how Han Solo is going to pay Jabba the bounty that he owes him, but he's hijacked by some space pirates that have an Imperial Star Destroyer that they stole from the Empire. And then, so they get stranded on this planet, and it's basically a retelling of the Seven Samurai, or the Magnificent Seven, where Han and Chewie and 5 other people have to protect this village because they're hired by people to stop these bandits who keep raiding this village. It's just the Seven Samurai, which is kind of cool because George Lucas has always said that Akira Kurosawa's films were a huge inspiration to him, and especially to his Star Wars series. So so I don't know if that was a suggestion by George Lucas that they adapt this story, or if it was just a coincidence. But it's pretty cool, and it was a lot of fun. Especially the cast of the 7 characters were really weird. There was a giant bunny named Jackson, I believe. There was another guy who was thought he was a Jedi Knight, but he may have been crazy. His name was Don Juan Quixote, which is a little silly and a little campy because it's obviously an homage to Don Quixote, which the Star Wars movies don't do. They don't really have real world based illusions like that. So, but it was a lot of fun. It's never really answered if he is a Jedi or if he's just some crazy guy with robes and a lightsaber. He doesn't do any magic. Then with issue 11, the creative team changes to Archie Goodwin and Carmen Infantino on pencils and Terry Austin on inks. And I'm not going to say it gets better, but it certainly gets a little bit more grounded in a science fiction style storytelling and just less wacky. There's no more giant bunnies. There's no more people named Don Quixote. And while I love Howard Chaykin, he's a great artist. He's an icon of the comic industry. But his art on this series just never really worked for me. It was a little too rough, a little too scratchy. A lot of that is every issue has a different inker, some of whom are better than others. It gets pretty good when Tom Palmer takes over inking. Also, the printing on all these old Marvel comics isn't great. So maybe the original pencils are great, but Carmen Infantino is just one of the all-time greats. And his style is a little cleaner and just kind of fits the Star Wars universe a little bit better than Howard Chaykin's rough, scratchy pencils. Also, and he's inked by Terry Austin, so just the combination of the two is really good. It's just really, really nice comic book art. I only have 2 or 3 issues by this team, but they're a lot of fun. They're about Luke on some water planet, and he's attacked by a huge group of sea serpents. They're really weird. Like I said, the stories are really weird. They have very little to do with the Star Wars universe beyond the first 6 issues that are strange, loose adaptations of the film. But they're really silly, they're really funny, they have some great artwork, and they're just stories about Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia traveling through the universe fighting sea serpents and bandits on alien worlds. I mean, they're comic book history, they're Star Wars, they're Marvel, they're from the 70s. They don't make comic books like this anymore. they don't make Star Wars stories like these anymore. Especially interesting considering now that Marvel and Star Wars are both owned by Disney. So Marvel technically is going to start publishing comic books again. And they're probably not going to be anything like this. But hopefully they'll be as good, if not better. I say go to your local comic book store and look through the bargain bin and see what you can find. They're good fun. Later.